Hi, Prosperity Team. This is Dr. Money coming to you from the Prosperity Corner of the universe where silliness is sacred and nobody's perfect. I am your POP, your Professor of Prosperity, and I'm here so that all of our lives can pop with prosperity.
I have a treat for you.
Mhm.
I've asked one of my best friends to come to the Prosperity Team and talk with you about forgiveness equals fortune and any other tidbits that she might have. Now, this woman is intelligent, beautiful, wonderful. We have worked together about prosperity issues in the past, and she is just amazing. She is, again, an author and a breath worker. And what else?
Well, sometimes I do inner child, which I call life editing,
Life
where I
editing.
support people to change the programs in their mind. But I am always interested in prosperity, and I might come at it from forgiveness. I might come at it from a different place of, you know, taking responsibility for everything in your life and understanding how we work as human beings in the universe.
Okay, so I want to let you know who this is. This is my friend, Liah Holtzman. Leah, so if you want to expand on that, let's start right with your book. You have a book called Forgiveness Equals Fortune, which I have read that book. It's a wonderful book. And then you came out with a later edition, I think that maybe was updated. Can you just tell me about, Forgiveness Equals Fortune? What is that about?
Well, I started researching forgiveness in the 80s because I didn't know how to forgive. And I had heard that, I think it was Catherine Ponder, that Unity minister that was so famous, and she said something like, all poverty and disease is the lack of forgiveness. And I went, wow,
Boy,
that's
that's
quite a powerful statement. And so I started researching it. And I was working with Leonard Orr at the time, the man that created rebirthing, and I was doing a money love letter, which was about money from a spiritual and psychological point of view. And I discovered that when I started forgiving, like I started forgiving my father, and immediately, I mean immediately, money flowed into the Theta house. It was the rebirthing house that Leonard Orr owned, and I was living and working there at the time. And I finished forgiving. I forgave for about 8 hours because I really had a lot of stuff to forgive.
for how long?
8 hours.
8 hours. Okay.
Yeah, I would do things like type affirmations and then walk and do affirmations. Then I went down to the hot tub and I did affirmations there and I forgave. And I mean,
Well,
I
what
just,
did you do? I mean, when you said you forgave, what did you do? You'd say, "I forgive my father for something so and so." Is that how you did that?
yeah, I would make a list of everything that I resented or felt hurt about. I'd say, oh, I resent my father for blah, blah, blah. And I am
Okay.
so hurt that my father, blah, blah, blah. And so I would make a list of the things that I needed to forgive him for. And then I would work with those in different ways. There's so many different ways to work with affirmations. You can write them or say them or do them with a friend or run and do them, record them, etc.
Well, I'm going to ask a question that probably some people were going to ask because people often think of the most extreme cases, especially if they've had an experience. Let's say that we're talking about an automobile accident where somebody ran into you and killed someone that you really love. How would
Oh,
you work?
you're making this really, really tough.
Well,
You're going for the hard one.
no, yeah. So I want you to make it as, distinction because
Okay.
somebody will go there and just kind of tweak it and let people know how that really works.
Well, it's a question. It's a hard question, and I hope I have a decent answer for you. Um, you do forgiveness for yourself. You don't forgive another person. You don't let them off the hook and say, "Oh, that's fine." It's not condoning what people do. What it is it's releasing the negative feelings that you have about that person, that experience, blah, 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 whatever it is, so that you can live in peace, so that you aren't stuffing that negativity down into your body. Because when you do that, then it seeks expression in other ways and it turns into diseases. And we don't realize that one of the reasons that we're not well is because we have stuffed all of our negative emotions about other people and situations. I actually feel like crying. I must have somebody to forgive. Okay, that's the danger of talking about forgiveness, is whatever you haven't given yourself comes up.
Right. Well, that's a wonderful thing. So what you're saying really is, if the person kills somebody, you lock them up, but what you do is you close the door to your upset and say, this upset is not going to rule my life. I need to move on. I need to find joy in my life. And so it's not front and center in your life. You put it behind you.
Nicely said.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
So in all of these years, let me just ask you, do you have any specific instances that you can think of, other than when you first started, that you forgave someone and you noticed some results for doing that
For myself?
for yourself? Yeah.
Well, as I said, I've been very interested in money and spiritual principles and stuff. And so when I started forgiving, what I found was I had the most wonderful experience. I'm a good typist, so I would sit and type my forgiveness affirmations. And I remember sitting at a desk and I typed these forgiveness affirmations, and I got a telephone call with a new client, like immediately. And so I would do that I tried that several times and it really worked. Now, I want you to remember, this was back in the early 80s and nobody knew much about forgiveness. So I had a lot of things to forgive. And as soon as I did it, and other people in my seminars, it would just be like, poof, something amazing would happen in regard to money. Because those emotions of anger and upset and hurt and, whatever it is that we're holding, it acts like a barrier. And so when you forgive, you release those emotions, and the goodness of the universe, which is always flowing towards us, can come in. Poof. That's why forgiveness, you don't have to, there's no time thing with forgiveness. You don't forgive and then you wait a week or 2 weeks or a month to see something happen. It doesn't necessarily work that way. It can, especially in regard to your ability to receive. But as soon as we let go, well, then you're open and you goodness right to you. Because goodness
Say you're open. Say you're open. I'm having some interference here. Now just say it again. Maybe you're on. You're kind of cutting out.
Cutting out. Well, I did get pretty excited about that.
No, you're. So if you could just say that again.
I've a message that says internet connection's not stable.
Yeah, that's that's interesting. That's happening right now.
I know, it's very interesting. Shall I repeat some of that?
Yeah, you're still cutting a little.
I'm still cutting out. Oh,
now you're good.
Okay. So when we forgive, we release the emotions that we have, like the anger and the hurt and the resentment and all of those things. We release, we forgive. And just by saying, Daddy, I forgive you, what happens is some of this goes away. And the more you do it, the more it goes away. And then the more the flow of the universe, there's always goodness flowing to us. And as soon as we let go, then it can be right there. You don't have to wait for the goodness to be there.
And of course, if the forgiveness was being stored in the body, we wouldn't see an immediate change, because it would be just the lack of more disease coming into our body. So we might feel a little healthier, but we probably wouldn't attribute that to our forgiveness exercises. But that doesn't mean that is not some benefit from doing it. I guess you remember and probably did this yourself, the 70 times 7, where you would
I did.
forgive 7, take one person and do it 7 days and do at least 70 forgiveness exercises
Yeah.
every day for 7 days.
And that was a good thing to do. I don't know if that's necessary right now, because that really came up 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's,
Yeah.
a bit biblical thing. But I think that we've evolved so much in the last 20 to 40 years that we have techniques and tools that we can use that makes things happen. But in regard to that, there are just a lot of simpler ways to do it. But in regard to diseases and problems with the physical, as you know, when I was doing forgiveness seminars in California in the 80s, I did have some people after the Forgiveness Equals Fortune seminar come up to me, or I'd see them and they would tell me things. One man, he said the top 3 vertebrae were fused, and he said they just really, really let go. And it was funny, about 3 years later, I saw him at a wedding, and, we chit-chatted, and he said, my back was permanently healed. I was like, wow, that is so incredible. And another one, I remember these ones that are so magnificent. And there was a lady there who had been raped, and she had an infection in the sexual area. And she couldn't find anybody to help her get rid of it. It was like it just had been there and been there and been there. And no matter what she did, it continued on. And so in the seminar, she forgave the person that raped her. And she said 3 days later that infection was gone. It was gone. So it had a big effect on her. And I'm not saying that's going to happen for everybody, and it certainly doesn't happen all the time. But every once in a while, something really magical and wonderful can happen immediately. But you have to remember that was from a full day's forgiveness seminar where I had people doing some very powerful things. So I personally had such a powerful experience doing forgiveness seminars. And then, I would reconnect with people and they would tell me all sorts of wonderful things, like their relationship improved, or they could talk to their ex-husband better, or, just a little bit of money would come in unexpected. Oh, I never thought I'd ever see that money, and here it came. So I think some of the power of the forgiveness seminar was the fact that I had such belief in it, and I told them about all of the things that had happened. So we programmed ourselves to believe that forgiveness equals fortune, fortunes of the heart or fortunes of the pocketbook.
That's great. Yeah. Whoa. So, is there anything else that you can think of that might be something that you think made your relationship with money easier or made your life seem more abundant? Did you have any kind of, and I'm talking about emotional tool, I'm not talking about, an investment strategy. I'm talking about, buy Apple stock. No, I'm
Buy low, sell high.
there you go.
That's it.
That's it. That's pretty much. But is there anything else you can think of that has been something that you live by? It always seems to work for you. Some way you change your mind in terms of abundance or prosperity that you might share.
Yeah, well, what comes to my mind, which kind of surprises me that it's coming to my mind, is the tapping, the EFT.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Emotional freedom technique, I believe it's called. And, when you want to forgive somebody, you just do things like, I forgive my daddy for blah, blah, blah. I forgive daddy for that. I'm not an EFT teacher, but the beautiful thing about it is I believe it's out there for free. That the
Yes.
person who developed it just gave it away. And I just wanted to personally thank him. That was such an incredible gift. But even if you don't know what you're doing, which I don't really, it's just a matter of you're tapping places where you're interrupting patterns. And then there's all sorts of wonderful things you can say, and you breathe, and
Yeah.
it's worth looking into. I think that has helped me. And the other thing that I do
But let me just
is
stop right there on that and just say, so EFT, if you want to know the tapping points, you can find those anywhere online. And what Leah's suggesting, I think, is that if you use your forgiveness affirmation with tapping, that it increases its effectiveness.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the other thing, Leah, is,
Well, both you and I know the power and the joy and the beauty of breathing and doing conscious breath. And it's really challenging to breathe and talk. You have to stop talking. Breathe through your nose, or some people, every once in a while, if I'm doing forgiveness work and I can feel I've got some emotions coming up, I've got some pain in my body, whatever it is, I will open my mouth and take a breath like that. But what I've found is most people feel very, very uncomfortable taking a mouth breath. And I'm not saying breathe through your mouth. I'm just saying when you have something intense coming up, open your mouth and blow it out. Just imagine you're taking in what you want and you're blowing out what you don't want. And just do it once. You don't need to make yourself feel uncomfortable. But the mouth hole is a lot bigger than the two nose holes put together. So you can get more air in and you can get more air out. So that's what I do when I feel stuff coming up. Or if I get frightened or intimidated or I get angry, I try to come back to my breath and be in the present moment instead of being emotional.
right. Well, I want to thank you so much. I think you've given everyone a lot to think about. And now, speaking of breathing, this is a time that we take where we all breathe in together. We just breathe in deeply. And as we breathe in our good. That's the receiving breath. And as we exhale in unison, we exhale our intention that all other beings receive their good as well. We're giving our breath away to them as they breathe in. And then there's one more thing that I want you to remember for sure, and that is that I love you. And what about you, Leah?
I love you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be with you and to be with you, Anne.
Thank you.